I love frame drums, even though I'm terribly bad at playing them. And I keep seeing Norse type neo-folk bands with lovely oval shaped drums. And they are incredibly expensive. So I thought, let's make my own. So I've just ordered a kit for a pretty large drum. I have a frame, it's 3 inches deep and it's 22 by 18. I have some goat skin of appropriate size, which will obviously need to be trimmed. And I have some buffalo hide lace for tying the string together and tightening the skin over the front of the drum. Here's the frame, here's the skin, and I've just drawn around it. The skin is dry and it needs to be soaked probably overnight to make it floppy, same with the lace. And there's 2 different ways that the skin can then be attached to the frame. Here's a cheap drum I bought a while back. And you can see here that the skin doesn't overlap the frame, it stays on the outside. But the other way is where the skin comes all the way over, and you might kind of trim it on the inside, but it does come over the rim of the frame. It looks like this skin is big enough for most of the way around to actually overlap, but maybe at the ends, because it's egg shaped and not round, there's less skin to play with at each end than there is round the sides. So I might end up with a kind of a hybrid version where some of it stops at the side and some of it overlaps. The lace then gets threaded through in particular ways, just crisscrossing, and then you can then put more lace around the main ones to form a handle in kind of whatever shape you like. You can also, for example, let's have a think here, you could put an actual handle, some kind of piece of wood or something there, which then becomes the handle of the drum, and you would obviously build the laces around that. That I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going to see how we go. Here's an example of a small shaman drum that I bought in Washington State on a reservation. And here you can see the skin once again doesn't come to the edge of the drum, it kind of just about touches the edge. And then there's the threads, and if you can imagine, all of these would have just been straight across, and then they've been pulled together in a bunch, and then some more hide has been used to make a handle. So this kind of drum is meant to be held in the hand and then hidden with a mallet. Right, the drum skin and the lace have been soaked in water overnight. Learning point number 1, never use a weight like this to weigh down the skin to keep it under the surface of the water. I didn't expect it to rust, but it did. When it comes to finding the places around the edge of the skin to punch the holes, if you're making a standard round drum, it's fine. You find a starting point, you fold the skin in half, and then that point will line up with its opposite. You then fold it in half the other way, and you've then got your 4 quarters, and then you can kind of divide between that. I've made the, I'm going to say a foolish mistake, but it was just a choice I made to go for an egg-shaped drum. So slightly trickier. So what I've done is I drew around the frame on the skin before I soaked it, and I made a little mark to tell me which was what I called north and south. North the pointy end of the egg, and south the fat end of the egg. And I've now got that on the floor here. I've put the frame on top of it, and I'm going to have a look, and hopefully I'll be able to mark the skin where I believe the holes need to be, and then I will get on with attempting to make the holes without wrecking everything. I need a way to make holes around the edge of the skin. I have acquired a weird tool there, a centre punch, whatever that is, a hammer and a block of wood. So hopefully between those I can figure out a way of making the holes. Okay, what appears to be working well is making a small starting hole with this tool, whatever this tool actually is, and then a method where one folds it and folds it again, and then snips. There we go, beautiful. So that's turned out to be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And as you can see, I've done a few holes already, getting the technique together. Right, I have a skin with holes in the hopefully appropriate places. Simplest method was simply just folding the skin, folding it again to make a little point, and then snipping the point off. All these guys online had all these kind of fancy tools for punching holes, which I guess if you're making it commercially is probably worth doing because you want it to look super neat. I'm not that fussed about that. Anyway, now to have a go at doing the lacing side of things. So the idea is that you lace it quite loosely, then you make all your adjustments around the edge of the drum and you tighten it up, and then you make adjustments and you tighten it again, and you do that maybe 3 times, and then you let it all dry and you've got a drum. So I'll get started and I'll show you partway through. Working backwards and forwards, slowly working my way around the drum, and when it's all the way done, it all gets pulled in the middle and the tightening sessions start. So we'll see how we get there. I just remembered that I'm meant to be passing it under instead of over, which I haven't been doing, so I'm going to do it for the rest of it. I can't be asked to go back and redo the whole thing. Hey. Right, it's looking like a drum. So I need to adjust the tightness all the way around, and when I'm happy with it, I will then decide how to arrange the insides to create some kind of handle in the middle. So this is where I'm in the realms of complete guesswork. Now around the edges here, there's ways to deal with some of this loose stuff, and I'll have a think about that on the fly. There are various options. Right, so the bones of it is done, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. And the issue for me at the moment is figuring out how tight to make everything, because I know it's going to tighten as the skin and the hide lacings dry. Okay, there's the back of the drum. I'm arsing about with coming up with some kind of handle type thing. I'm just going to trim this end bit off and do a bit more tying on here. And then if I've got enough hide left, I'll do something around the edge of a drum to control some of the folds. We'll see. Right, here's the probably finished drum. It's very floppy. I'm just a little bit concerned that it might not tighten up enough when it dries, but we'll see. Back of the drum, bit of a dog's dinner. It's not very neat and tidy. I think if I had a bigger sheet of skin, I'd have done some trimming, and there are fancier ones that you can buy by people who know what they're doing, so that I've got ideas for how I might do that. However, I just want a functional drum. Just got to see if I can figure out some of these bits that are sticking out. But on the front of the drum it looks fine. Rust marks from the weights I used, so I've learnt my lesson there. I don't mind a drum with marks on it, and also I might well illustrate it, in which case I will incorporate these marks somehow into the illustration. But there you go, a drum. I'll let it dry for a while, and then I'll let you hear what it sounds like. Right, the drum has had a couple of hours to start drying. It is not fully dried yet. I can still feel some dampness in some of the hide. However, we are starting to get a hint of the kind of tone it might have, which I was kind of hoping for. It has tightened up, which I'm very happy with, and seems like it's got a nice bassy tone. That is awesome. And I think I said before, where there's some marks on the skin through my own stupidity, I might well come up with some artwork to go on there that takes that into account. On the other hand, I actually don't mind. You know, it's a working tool. It's an instrument to be used, not just admired. The back is quite messy, but basically I'm pretty happy with it.